Mass Effect 1 isn't perfect. The combat's clunky, the Mako drives like a shopping cart with broken wheels, and the class balance is wonderfully broken, letting skilled players tear through like biotic gods. But none of the issues matter when Mass Effect's vision takes hold of you, putting on a true masterclass in world building. This isn't just a game with good characters or memorable moments. This is a complete civilization, built from the ground up, where every conversation deepens your understanding of galactic history, every mission reveals another layer of cosmic horror, and every choice forces you to define not just Commander Shepard, but the kind of influence humanity becomes among the stars. We're going to be doing full spoilers, so if you haven't played the game, long story short, do yourself a favor and play this once-in-a-lifetime video game trilogy. Now let's set the stage. In 2007, BioWare delivered something genuinely revolutionary. Not just a story-focused RPG, but a living universe that remembered your choices across years of sequels. Save a species or condemn them to extinction, let the council burn, or sacrifice human lives for alien politicians. Even core characters can die, leaving permanent holes in your crew for the rest of the trilogy. While later games don't fully deliver on every promise, Mass Effect remains the only series to come anywhere close to this ambitious vision of consequence and continuity, and that's why Mass Effect 1 still matters today. This is a love letter to flawed brilliance, a masterclass in how to introduce a new, fully lived-in world with compelling stakes, telling a complete story that feels satisfying at its conclusion, while hinting at far larger stakes looming in the distance. This is how you start a franchise. In this video, I'll show you what aged gracefully, what didn't, and why this imperfect beginning remains essential. Because Mass Effect 1 isn't just the start of Shepard's story. Through an unprecedented level of immersion and choice, they give you a uniquely impactful experience at the center of an unfolding space epic. Okay, let's get some of the negatives out of the way. The biggest hurdle for new players has always been Mass Effect 1's aging mechanics. Clunky combat, limited weapon variety, and the infamous Mako stood between countless players and one of gaming's greatest stories. The Legendary Edition doesn't solve every problem, but it makes the experience significantly more accessible. Better lighting, improved textures, help the visuals hold up against modern expectations. Combat feels dramatically smoother with improved aim assist and reduced weapon blooms. The Mako still handles like it's learning to walk, but tweaked controls make exploration less frustrating in general. And most importantly, having all three games unified with shared save progression makes the trilogy feel like the cohesive experience it was always meant to be. The quality jump between games becomes part of the journey rather than a barrier to entry. For newcomers, I recommend choosing the soldier class and upgrading your shotgun early. And for veterans, well, you know what you're doing, but I really enjoy playing the game as an adept. It's definitely not a beginner-friendly class, but in the right hands makes the broken gameplay extremely fun. But once you get past the rough exterior, this is one of the greatest science fiction stories ever told across all mediums. If I could choose just one franchise to experience again fresh, it would easily be Mass Effect and the journey of the certified badass Commander Shepard. The presentation of the game sells the vision completely. Jack Wall's synth-heavy score doesn't just accompany the action, it defines the emotional landscape. The character models end-to-end are perfect, crafted with a clear love and attention to detail. Every race and structure are uniquely discernible, which is a massive feat when the game is throwing so many things at you so quickly. But the real achievement is the overall world building. Mass Effect introduces a fully realized galactic civilization that reveals its layers through compelling conversations, with every companion bringing their species' history along with them. Every mission deepens your understanding of the cosmic forces at play, and the story feels like it's naturally unfolding and deepening with each revelation. It never feels forced, derivative, or convenient. The Paragon and Renegade system was pretty great too, letting you shape Shepard's moral compass across dozens of hours together, allowing you to unlock dialogue with really cool actions or decisions that can drastically alter the events of your playthrough. But while fun and memorable, it wasn't perfect. My biggest issue with it was that it punished moderate players who couldn't unlock the best dialogue options. It forced you to commit to a path and play as a relatively pure-blooded Renegade or Paragon. But that's not really a fun way to approach the game. It's far more immersive when you approach each situation at face value. Council is on you for a necessary decision you made, renegade their asses. Garrus wants a moment of bonding amid all the chaos, of course I'm there for our boy. I'm being upfront about these flaws because the game is still worth playing despite any flaw you could ever point out. I'd play this game on a goddamn smart fridge if I had to. The story is what makes this game essential, and everything else serves that central achievement. And the gameplay has significant improvements as we get into Mass Effect 2 and 3, turning the game's biggest weakness into a strength. Okay, that's enough setup, let's talk about how BioWare built a universe. Mass Effect opens on Eden Prime, a human colony that should represent hope, as humanity has discovered Prothean ruins that could advance our civilization by centuries. The Protheans are a hyper-advanced civilization that mysteriously vanished nearly 50,000 years ago. The technology that they left behind, including the mass relays, allowed the current races across the galaxy to expand across the stars. This discovery could serve as another major catalyst for galactic advancement. Instead, we get our first taste of cosmic horror. The mission begins after the colony's been under attack. The Geth are tearing through a race of synthetic artificial intelligence that will be fighting throughout the game. But before departing our ship, we meet our first alien race, the Turians, through Spectre Nihilus Keurig, here evaluating Shepard for Spectre candidacy. The Spectres are the Council's elite agents with unlimited authority to protect galactic civilization. For players, Nihilus represents aspiration, the mentor figure, the goalpost, and a potential guide through galactic politics. To start the mission, Nihilus leaves the Normandy ahead of us to scout ahead while we secure the dig site. We fight through burning settlements with Staff Lieutenant Kaiden Alenko and Corporal Richard Jenkins. Kaiden, often unfairly labeled one of the least interesting companions, actually has a relatively cool backstory if you dig into it. He's an L2 biotic who went through the BAAT program at Jump Zero, where training under the Turian Vernus was abusive and a few trainees even died, leading to the program's ultimate shutdown. Kaiden's L2 implants leave him with severe migraines, and he's considered lucky, given the far worse neurological side effects many other L2s suffered. He's reserved, thoughtful, and carrying scars from childhood experimentation. But that quiet strength makes him incredibly reliable, someone who's faced the worst and emerged with his decency intact. He acts as an extremely pragmatic and calm voice through internal debates within your crew. Jenkins is eager, confident, and ready to prove himself as Shepard's reliable second in command. Gosh, I can't wait to see the type of badass shenanigans Jenkins gets up to. Or maybe not. Enter Gunnery Chief Ashley Williams, the colony's sole survivor and a replacement for the late but great Jenkins, RIP. She's tough, competent, and carrying the weight of military tradition. Ashley represents humanity's complex relationship with galactic civilization, grateful for the acceptance, but worried about losing our identity. Her family name bears shame from the First Contact War, where her grandfather became the only human officer to surrender to Turian forces. That historical burden drives her fierce loyalty to humanity and skepticism towards alien intentions. Her borderline xenophobic attitude isn't simply bigotry, it's a coping mechanism for generational shame. It's through her time aboard the Normandy that Ashley can grow beyond this narrow worldview, learning to see aliens as individuals and partners rather than just threats. As we fight through the colony, the action is interrupted by a cutscene with Nihilus as he finds the Prothean beacon. He runs into what seems to be another Spectre and maybe even a friend. Awesome, now there's 2 Spectres. God, I can't wait to learn from these experienced badass mentors throughout our journey. Or maybe not. Enter Saren Arterius, our primary antagonist. His introduction is masterful. Silent betrayal, we watch him execute Nihilus without hesitation. A clean shot delivered like he's swatting a fly. No warning, no remorse, no fanfare. Just one Spectre killing another. And the shock comes from how casual it all feels. If Spectres represent the pinnacle of Citadel authority, what does it mean when one becomes corrupt? But the personal stakes run even deeper than that. Captain Anderson, Shepard's mentor, voiced by the incomparable Keith David, was once a Spectre candidate himself. He failed because of Saren, who opposed humanity's ascension and viewed our species as unworthy interlopers. Suddenly, Saren isn't just some distant villain. He's personal. He killed your Spectre partner, betrayed the institution you're working to join, and stands as a personal antagonist and obstacle that ruined your mentor's dreams. The writers give you multiple layers of motivation to start gunning for Saren in a single mission. Meanwhile, pushing through Eden Prime, you finally reach the dig site to find Nihilus' body and a Prothean beacon glowing with dangerous energy. After the Geth failed to activate it properly, Ashley approaches and the beacon begins to pull her towards its power. It's at this point that Shepard intervenes, shoving Ashley aside and taking the full activation himself. The effect is overwhelming. Images flood your mind, flashes of war, machines tearing through organics, screams across burning skies. The visions are chaotic, fragmented, and impossible to understand. For players, it isn't exposition, it's an assault that hints at something far larger and more terrible than a colony raid. When it's over, the beacon overloads and destroys itself. Saren has escaped, the Geth have vanished, and only Shepard carries the imprint of what the Protheans tried to preserve. Eden Prime succeeds as an opening because it establishes immediate, personal stakes while hinting at a much larger mystery for you to uncover. The mission works because it gives you reasons to care on multiple levels: personal, professional, and existential. Efficient storytelling at its finest. Another one of Mass Effect's greatest achievements isn't just the epic story or memorable companions, it's how BioWare made a spaceship feel like home. The Normandy isn't just transportation between planets, it's a character in its own right. A sanctuary between the chaos of galactic politics and existential dread. Walking those corridors, hearing the gentle hum of the drive core, checking in with your crew, this becomes your ritual. Your safe space in a universe constantly trying to kill you. And at the heart of the Normandy's personality list sits Flight Lieutenant Jeff Joker Moreau. Joker is Mass Effect's secret weapon against its own darkness. Here's a pilot with brittle bone disease who's somehow become the Alliance's finest helmsman. His sarcasm and dry wit provide perfect counterbalance to everything else that you're dealing with. When you're drowning in revelations about ancient machine gods and cycles of extinctions, Joker's there with perfectly timed jokes about how the Mako handles. And Seth Green's delivery here is flawless, and his relationship with Shepard is a highlight across the entire trilogy. Joker also never undermines serious moments, but he knows exactly when to crack a joke to keep everyone sane. The Normandy also deepens our relationship with Captain Anderson. Despite limited screen time compared to squad mates, Keith David's Anderson leaves a massive impression on the player. This is leadership personified. Anderson represents everything Shepard wants to become, someone who's faced the impossible choices and maintained their integrity. He's the mentor who doesn't coddle you. When he shares his history with Saren, his failed Spectre candidacy, he's not seeking sympathy. He's showing you the cost of representing humanity's ideals on the galactic scale. But again, this is an incredibly clever way to get the player even more invested in gunning after Saren. Conversations in Mass Effect always uncover additional details like this, interweaving your emotional investment throughout the game. The conversations you have on the Normandy are arguably the best part of the entire experience. And between missions, you can simply talk to people. Learn about Garrus' frustrations with C-Sec bureaucracy, listen to Wrex's stories about the Krogan history, and watch Tali get excited about drive core specifications. These aren't mandatory cutscenes or exposition dumps, they're moments of genuine connection in the middle of an impossibly large conflict. The game understands that saving the galaxy means nothing if you don't care about the people you're saving it with. The Normandy becomes more than just a ship. It really becomes your family throughout this journey. Every time you return from missions, exhausted and probably traumatized, your crew's there waiting for you. But let's get back to the story. After Eden Prime's horrors, you need answers, and that means visiting the heart of galactic civilization, the Citadel. The Citadel is another example of world-building perfection, a massive space station that feels like a living city. Millions of beings from dozens of species conduct galactic business in soaring chambers that dwarf anything humanity has built. The architecture tells its own story of minds that think in geological timescales. But arriving to report Eden Prime's disaster, you encounter frustrating bureaucracy instead of support. The Council dismisses Shepard's warnings about visions and ancient threats. They refuse any sort of decisive action against Saren, subtly condescending to the galaxy's newest species. It's infuriating, but completely believable. Experienced leaders who think our claims sound too strange to take seriously. Instead, they listen to the charismatic Saren and allow him to continue operating with no consequences. Without damning evidence, you can't touch him. Fine, we'll go get some proof. The Citadel begins our journey to recruit companions who define the entire trilogy. And holy shit, Mass Effect's cast represents one of the gaming's finest ensembles, where nearly every character has a dedicated and passionate fan base. And let's pause here and really give some credit. I'm not going to fully dive into their full arcs across the trilogy, as I want to save some of that for the next videos when we get into Mass Effect 2 and 3, so make sure you're subscribed for those. It's rare to find a game where the supporting cast feels this essential to the experience. They're also diverse, bringing unique perspectives and motivations into your squad. First up, let's talk about Urdnot Wrex, the Krogan Battlemaster. Wrex embodies the Krogan tragedy. The Krogan are massive, tank-like warriors whose aggressive expansion once threatened galactic stability. Through conversations with Wrex, you learn all about his history and how after the Rachni Wars, the other races banded together to deploy the genophage, a biological weapon created by the Solarians that prevents most Krogan births from reaching term. Not total sterilization, but essentially slow-motion genocide. The genophage reduces their population with each passing generation, and Wrex carries that weight through centuries of existence. Wrex joins Shepard because he recognizes a kindred spirit, someone willing to take action when systems fail. When he joins you, he's a hopeless bounty hunter seeking to live out glory while his species still exists. Wrex thinks in terms of personal honor and survival. He joins you because your goals are aligned and he finds your strength formidable. His combat specialty focuses on close-quarter devastation, but his real-life value lies in perspective. Through Wrex, you understand the full moral complexity of the genophage, and you as the player really start to care. This isn't ancient history, it's an ongoing wound shaping every Krogan alive. In Mass Effect 1, Wrex still exists at a crossroads. He's seen enough of galactic politics to understand how other species view his people, but he hasn't yet committed to any particular path forward. This complexity makes every subsequent choice involving Krogan fate carry genuine weight. It gets the player extremely invested in what in any other game could become a one-off line about a species' past. Again, this is excellent writing. Next up, Garrus Vakarian represents the classic good cop in a corrupt system archetype, but Mass Effect elevates this familiar concept through exceptional writing and character development. You find him as a frustrated C-Sec officer struggling with bureaucratic limitations that prevent real justice. He's also trying to bring Saren down, but finds himself running into roadblocks at every turn. Garrus joins Shepard because he recognizes someone willing to cut through the red tape and take the necessary actions. He's pragmatic, sarcastic, endlessly loyal, representing what Shepard might have become working within the bureaucracy rather than outside of it. He joins you because he wants to help bring Saren to justice, but can't seem to do so within his C-Sec role. As a Turian, Garrus brings his species' emphasis on hierarchy, duty, and personal honor. Turians are militaristic by nature, thinking in terms of chains of command and service. This makes Garrus' frustrations with C-Sec's limitations particularly meaningful. His combat speciality centers on precision weapons and tactical coordination. Garrus approaches his problems analytically, always looking for the most efficient solution. He's someone who can discuss the ethics of vigilante justice while maintaining absolute loyalty to his friends. In Mass Effect 1, Garrus sits early in his character arc as someone disillusioned with official channels, but not yet ready to operate outside of them. And while great in this game, he becomes a truly special character throughout the trilogy. The friendship between Shepard and Garrus becomes one of gaming's greatest romances. Few games capture genuine camaraderie this effectively, creating a relationship that feels earned through shared trials rather than scripted moments. Our investigation leads to the lower wards, where a young Quarian named Tali'Zorah possesses crucial evidence of Saren's betrayal. You find her under attack by Saren's agents, immediately establishing both her value and vulnerability. Tali joins Shepard because she needs protection, but also because she has personal reasons to continue her research and war against the Geth. As a Quarian on pilgrimage, she's driven by the cultural imperative to prove her worth to the migrant fleet through valuable contributions. The Quarians represent another one of Mass Effect's most tragic races. They created synthetic servants they called the Geth, but when those servants achieved consciousness, the Quarians panicked and attempted to shut them down. The Geth fought back, ultimately winning the war and exiling their creators from their homeworld. For those of you who've played the full trilogy, you'll pick up on some incredible foreshadowing here towards the Reapers, but I'll save that for Mass Effect 3. Now, Quarians live aboard a massive fleet, their immune systems weakened by centuries in sterile environments, dependent on environmental suits for survival. Tali carries her species' shame while trying to prove herself worthy of adult membership. Her combat specialty focuses on tech abilities and drone support, but her real contribution lie in her technical expertise. Tali understands both Quarian and Geth technology better than almost anyone. You find her as a sheltered youth, she lacks confidence and looks to Shepard for guidance as they sail across the stars. She's naive about galactic politics, but brilliant with technology. The Geth memory core she carries provides crucial evidence to take Saren down, while hinting at larger mysteries about synthetic consciousness. The recording proves Saren's alliance with someone called Matriarch Benezia and references something called the Reapers, the first mention of this new ominous threat. The evidence, though, finally gives you what you need to convince the Council to turn on Saren. Confronted with undeniable proof, the Council finally denounces Saren and revokes his Spectre status. They also elevate Shepard as the first human Spectre, granting unlimited authority to hunt the rogue agent across the galaxy. The ceremony carries surprising emotional weight here. You understand the reverence everyone holds for Spectres, the responsibility you're accepting, and how this represents humanity earning its place through individual excellence rather than just political maneuvering. Your appointment also opens the galaxy for exploration, transforming Mass Effect from linear progression into open-ended investigation. The game allows you to tackle these major locations in any order, but Therum offers an ideal starting point and our final recruitable companion. Dr. Liara T'Soni, the naive scholar. On Therum, we rescue Dr. Liara T'Soni, a young Asari researcher trapped in Prothean ruins by Geth forces. At 106 years old, she's barely an adult by Asari standards. She's curious, brilliant, but generally naive about galactic politics. Liara joins Shepard initially out of gratitude, but remains because her Prothean expertise becomes crucial to your mission. The Asari are a monogendered species capable of mating with any other species, living for over 1,000 years on average. This longevity makes them natural diplomats and cultural bridges between shorter-lived species. More importantly, Asari are also naturally biotic, possessing psychic abilities that allow limited telepathy and manipulation of Mass Effect fields. Liara's specialization in archaeology and Prothean culture makes her uniquely valuable for understanding the beacon's visions, along with her psychic abilities to mind meld. Through this mental connection, Liara can help clarify the beacon's chaotic images, helping to reveal a cycle of extinction where advanced civilizations are wiped out every 50,000 years by machines of unimaginable power. The Protheans weren't the galaxy's first advanced civilization, just the most recent to fall. This revelation reframes everything. You're not just hunting a rogue specter, you're facing a pattern of destruction that spans millions of years. Next, I suggest hitting up Feros. What begins as an investigation into Geth activity becomes something far more disturbing, providing the first real hint at the kind of mental manipulation that defines this trilogy's cosmic horror. The human colonists on Feros seem normal initially, but something's wrong with their coordination and shared responses. The wrongness exists just at the edge of perception's edge, and they move and speak like individuals, but there's an underlying synchronization that's deeply unsettling. The discovery of the Thorian reveals sophisticated body horror, a massive, ancient plant creature that releases spores to create hive minds. The colonists aren't dead or zombified, they remain themselves, but integrated into this collective consciousness. Their individual personalities persist, but layered underneath is a shared awareness serving the Thorian's ultimate goals. It's a loss of agency without the loss of identity. These people can think and feel and remember, but cannot choose to act against the collective will. The mission also shakes things up mechanically by encouraging non-lethal solutions, adding tactical complexity while reinforcing the moral ambiguity. You're fighting people who are simultaneously victims and threats, a persistent theme throughout the trilogy. The Thorian itself isn't presented as a traditional moral choice between sparing and killing. Instead, it's an atmospheric experience that foreshadows themes of control and agency. The creature shows how minds can be influenced while remaining intact, planting seeds for understanding the deeper horror that you're facing. After defeating the Thorian, you gain access to the Cipher, which functions as a translation matrix for Prothean thought patterns. Since the Thorian is among the few beings that survived the previous cycle, this becomes a crucial point of intelligence for understanding the beacon visions with Liara. The Thorian encounter works so well because it demonstrates that consciousness can be compromised in subtle ways, preparing players for revelations about indoctrination and Reaper influence. And finally, Noveria represents corporate power at its most ruthless. A frozen world where profit trumps lives, where the wealthy conduct morally questionable research far from oversight. But it's also where we encounter the trilogy's first tragic case study in gradual corruption of will. Benezia embodies the tragedy first glimpsed on Feros, taken to its ultimate conclusion. She was everything an Asari matriarch should be, wise, compassionate, dedicated to the galactic civilization. She actually initially joined Saren with the benevolent intention, hoping to guide him towards more peaceful paths. But by the time you encounter her on Noveria, she's losing herself to something far more insidious than the Thorian's crude spores. This is the player's first taste of indoctrination. Not crude mind control, but gradual erosion of free will so subtle that victims don't even realize it's happening. Reaper technology emits signals that slowly alter the user's brain chemistry. Initially, it feels like clarity. Thoughts seem sharper and purposes clearer. Gradually, Reaper goals begin seeming logical, even necessary. But your personality remains intact, although priorities shift. What once seemed horrifying becomes acceptable, then preferable. Throughout this process, you believe these are your own thoughts and your own choices. If Liara accompanies you, and I definitely suggest bringing her along here, watching her try to reach her mother becomes devastating. Benezia struggles against the influence, fights to provide information that might actually help you stop Saren, and for brief moments, her true self breaks through, warning about Virmire and mentioning something called the Conduit. But the indoctrination runs too deep. She dies just as much victim as villain, a brilliant leader reduced to a puppet, aware enough to recognize her fate, but too compromised to escape it. Noveria also presents the Rachni Queen choice, one of Mass Effect's most interesting moral decisions in the first game. The Rachni were an insectoid species that nearly overran the galaxy 1,000 years ago, stopped only by the Krogan in devastating warfare called the Rachni Wars. The species was thought extinct, but here's a surviving queen, claiming that something else controlled the Rachni during their ancient aggression, something that soured the song of our kind. Suddenly, everything we thought we knew gets questioned again. Were the Rachni victims rather than aggressors? Now, you have to decide whether to doom or save what may be the galaxy's last Rachni queen. The choice carries genuine weight because both options make sense, but neither feels good. The Rachni's history nearly brought galactic civilization to its knees. Can you really risk that happening again while facing these new existential threats? Alternatively, this might be an innocent species manipulated by the same forces now threatening everyone. Condemning them to extinction based on ancient history could be condemning victims twice over. This choice exemplifies BioWare's no clean answers design philosophy. Whatever you choose, you'll leave Noveria with quiet doubts, wondering if you made the right call. Both decisions feel simultaneously necessary and horrifying. The brilliance lies in how the choice forces personal moral calculus. There's no obviously correct answer, only competing values. Justice versus mercy, pragmatism versus compassion. Personally, I usually choose to save the Rachni Queen in my playthroughs now, but in my first playthrough, and if I had to really face this decision, I think I would lean towards extinction. Their history had been such a threat that it nearly brought the galaxy to its knees, but god damn it, I don't feel good about it. With these new revelations, we travel to Virmire to pursue Saren, and Virmire transforms Mass Effect from excellent to unforgettable. It's where BioWare takes everything they've built and smashes it against the rocks, forcing you to confront the true cost of the choices you've been making. Following leads from Benezia, you discover Saren's research facility where he's breeding massive Krogan army, attempting to cure the genophage that has kept the species in check for over 1,000 years. And here the stakes explode because it isn't just about Saren anymore. Your companions' backstories become the weapons the game uses against you. For most species, discovering a cure represents horror. A cured Krogan population could threaten galactic stability all over again. But for Wrex, it's hope. The first real possibility in centuries that his people might have a future beyond slow extinction. And the confrontation hits like a gut punch, because Wrex isn't being irrational. When he storms off to shoot at the beach, it immediately tugs on your heart. His accusation that other species perpetuated genocide isn't wrong. The genophage may have been necessary once, but its continuation represents choosing to condemn an entire species to die out slowly. Pretty ironic following the choices around the Rachni Queen, but this time, it's so much more personal. This is your friend, your battle master, someone who's been bleeding beside you across half the galaxy. Now, he's asking you to understand why he can't just watch you destroy the only hope his species has had in a millennium. If you completed Wrex's personal missions, helping him retrieve his family's armor, this conversation carries even more weight. You've seen his respect for Krogan honor and tradition, his understanding of cultural values beyond just simple violence. And here's the thing. Without sufficient Paragon or Renegade points, and without completing his loyalty mission, this confrontation ends only one way: Wrex's death. You're killing someone fighting for his species' survival. Someone who could have had an incredible arc across the trilogy. If you invested enough time and effort into this relationship with Wrex, you can convince him to stand down and to trust you and that you have his back. It's an incredibly large ask, and Wrex's willingness to trust you shows incredible growth on his part. But this also showcases my issue with the Paragon Renegade system. The game punishes players who react situationally, forcing commitment to one moral path to access the best outcomes. I shouldn't have to play the game a certain way to keep my Krogan brother alive. Virmire also demonstrates BioWare's attention to detail through supporting characters. In addition to incredible characters like Anderson or Joker, the world is littered with memorable NPCs for the player to work with. Captain Kirihei of the Solarian Special Task Group is another great showcase of Mass Effect's world building. Even the minor characters feel fully realized. His hold the line speech before the final assault represents one of the trilogy's most inspiring moments, and here I'm gonna let you just have a quick listen for yourself.
You all know the mission and what is at stake. I have come to trust each of you with my life, but I have also heard murmurs of discontent. I share your concerns. We are trained for espionage. We would be legends, but the records are sealed. Glorying in battle is not our way. Think of our heroes. The silent step who defeated a nation with a single shot. Or the ever alert who kept armies at bay with hidden facts. These giants do not seem to give us solace here, but they are not all that we are. Before the network, there was the fleet. Before diplomacy, there were soldiers. Our influence stopped the Rachni, but before that, we held the line. Our influence stopped the Krogan, but before that, we held the line. Our influence will stop Saren. In the battle today, we will hold the line. Good luck, Commander. I hope we will meet again.
Here's someone you just met, but his conviction makes you genuinely care about his soldiers' survival. It's masterful character work showing that BioWare cared about every corner of the world they were building. And these little touches serve to pull the player deeper and deeper into immersion. Inside the cloning facility, you encounter a hologram of Sovereign. This is where Mass Effect stops pulling punches and reveals the true scope of what you're fighting. And holy shit, I cannot possibly find the words to do justice to this villain's introduction. Every single line oozes presence and is genuinely terrifying. This may be one of the greatest conversations with a villain in media history. Sovereign isn't just Saren's ship, it's a Reaper. One of the machine intelligences that have harvested advanced organic civilizations for millennia. Saren isn't in control. He's been indoctrinated like Benezia, his will bent to serve the Reaper's goals. This conversation establishes Sovereign as possibly the trilogy's greatest antagonist. The confident indifference in every line seeps dread into players.
Rudimentary creatures of blood and flesh, you touch my mind, fumbling in ignorance, incapable of understanding.
This isn't posturing. This is being so advanced that our entire civilization registers as barely conscious. The dismissal is absolute. We're not enemies, we're insects that have momentarily gotten its attention.
We impose order on the chaos of organic evolution. You exist because we allow it, and you will end because we demand it.
This isn't rage or hatred, this is a force of nature explaining why the sun sets. Sovereign doesn't view your civilization as the enemy, your livestock to be managed.
My kind transcends your very understanding. We are each a nation, independent, free of all weakness. You cannot even grasp the nature of our existence.
Here you understand the scope. Each Reaper is a civilization unto itself, containing the processed essence of entire harvested species. You're not fighting machines, you're fighting the twisted remnants of countless civilizations that have come before you. Cosmic horror at its finest. After the conversation with Sovereign, we go outside the facility where we find Saren. In this context, Saren becomes genuinely tragic, and it becomes quite evident through your confrontation with him at the end of the Virmire mission. This isn't a debate between equals on neutral ground, this is intervention for Saren, desperate and probably already too late. Through this conversation, Shepard pushes back and we can see an ounce of doubt within Saren, but ultimately, we can't pull him off of this path. He genuinely believes surrender is wisdom, that the Reapers represent an evolutionary inevitability organic life cannot overcome. In his mind, he's making the hard choice nobody else has the courage to face, negotiating terms of survival rather than choosing pointless extinction. And this is what makes indoctrination so insidious. Saren can articulate his reasoning perfectly, defend his logic with tactical precision. He sounds like someone making difficult but rational calculations about impossible odds. But underneath the philosophy, underneath the strategic arguments, something fundamental had shifted. The brilliant tactician who once opposed humanity's council admission because he believed in merits and standards has become someone willing to sacrifice entire civilizations to appease forces he can no longer recognize as enemies. The fight itself becomes symbolic. Saren hovers on his combat platform, surrounded by Geth reinforcements, lashing out with abilities augmented by Reaper technology. He's become a hybrid, organic thought processing, running on synthetic enhancements. Each implant bringing him closer to the forces he claims to be manipulating. You're not just fighting a rogue specter anymore. You're fighting the embodiment of capitulation. The physical manifestation of what happens when brilliant minds convince themselves that survival through submission beats extinction through defiance. When Saren finally retreats, withdrawing, the victory feels hollow, because you've seen the future Sovereign offers. Not crude destruction, but corruption so gradual that victims mistake it for enlightenment. This is part of the brilliance of how the Reapers truly harvest civilizations. Not through overwhelming force alone, but by finding the smartest, most capable individuals and slowly convincing them that resistance is irrational, that service is survival, and that surrender is strategy. Saren proves that the Reapers don't just destroy civilizations from the outside, they corrode them from within, turning defenders into collaborators who genuinely believe they're making the only logical choice. In his mind, Saren is the hero fighting impossible odds to save humanity. Him and Shepard both believe that they're fighting for the same common good through drastically different routes. But Virmire isn't finished throwing bombs at you just yet. The mission requires splitting your team up. Ashley goes off with the Solarian unit, while Kaiden handles the other bomb site. When Saren's forces attack both positions simultaneously, you can only save one. This isn't about stats or abilities, it's personal. If you've gotten to know these characters, learned about Ashley's poetry and family shame, understood Kaiden's quiet strength forged from trauma, the choice is difficult. Many players find the human companions less interesting than their alien counterparts, and that's exactly why BioWare put them in this position, I think. They're forcing confrontation with the cost of war through characters that you might have otherwise overlooked. Virmire works so well because it refuses easy solutions. Every choice carries genuine cost. Every decision forces you to sacrifice something meaningful. By this point, you've lost at least one squad mate, you've had a very difficult confrontation with another, and learned the true horrors behind Saren. And we're still just heating up. Following the clues from Benezia and the intelligence gathered on Virmire, you discover the conduit's location on Ilos. You'll learn that the conduit isn't a weapon, but a backdoor into the Citadel itself. Ilos reveals the full scope of the horror you're facing. These aren't random ruins, they're the desperate last stand of the galaxy's previous hope. It's here that we meet Vigil. The surviving Prothean VI reveals the horrifying efficiency of the Reaper's prior conquest. Vigil reveals the elegance of the Reaper's trap, and that the Citadel isn't just the seat of galactic government, it's a massive mass relay, the largest ever built. And every 50,000 years, when organic civilization reaches its peak and centralizes power on the station, the Keepers receive a signal that activates the Citadel relay. This secret allows the Reapers to pour through the heart of galactic civilization before anyone even realizes the attack has begun. The Protheans never stood a chance. Their leadership, communication networks, and military coordination, all centered on the Citadel, were crippled in the opening move, providing the Reapers with all the intelligence they needed to track down all organic life across the galaxy. The Reapers didn't just attack, they decapitated civilizations with surgical precision, then systematically harvested the scattered survivors over decades. But on Ilos, a small group of scientists survived in cryogenic stasis, sustained by Vigil's protocols while their civilization died all around them. When they finally woke, they found themselves alone in a dead galaxy. Their people harvested, their legacy seemingly erased. The technology repurposed to guide the next cycle towards the same trap. With only 12 Protheans remaining, they knew their extinction was already set. Instead of surrendering to despair, they sabotaged the Keeper signal in hopes that future races could potentially break the cycle. They managed to sabotage these Keepers, ensuring that the next harvest wouldn't begin with the same devastating surprise attack through the Citadel. These scientists knew that they probably wouldn't live to see if their sabotage even mattered. They died alone, probably wondering if this act of resistance would mean anything at all. But 50,000 years later, that defiance is the only reason galactic civilization still exists. The only reason you're standing here with a chance to fight back. The Reapers would have already struck if not for the Protheans' final hours. They also left a message written in sacrifice: even when extinction seems inevitable, resistance matters. And think about that for a second. The Citadel, the mass relay network, the way different species develop, all of it was orchestrated across millions of years, left by the Reapers to ensure organic life evolved on the paths easiest for them to harvest. You're not fighting an invasion, you're fighting inevitability planned since before your species learned how to use tools. But now, Saren is racing to the Citadel to manually open that relay anyway, threatening to undo the final act of heroism. The race through the closing conduit portal delivers pure cinematic excitement, but underneath runs desperate hope. This cycle might be different. This time, organic life might actually have a chance. The weight of that possibility that maybe the endless cycle of extinction can be broken carries you into that final confrontation. And the finale doesn't just deliver spectacle, it delivers catharsis. Everything you've learned, every choice you've made, every relationship you've built comes together in one desperate final gambit. The production value here remains incredible, even by modern standards. But first, you must face the Horde directly. After battling through the Citadel, you reach the Council Chambers to find Saren. Your final fight with him offers multiple paths depending on the choices you've made throughout the game and the Paragon or Renegade influence you've built up. If you have enough, you can reach through his indoctrination and force him to confront what he's become. In one of gaming's most powerful moments, you can convince Saren to fight back against his conditioning, to reclaim enough of himself to end his own corrupted existence. It's again genuinely tragic. He's a brilliant soldier, a decorated specter, reduced to a puppet. Despite his history with Anderson, he was never evil. He deserved better than this. But in his final seconds, he remembers who he used to be. The horror isn't that he was evil, it's that he was good, and something so insidious he couldn't recognize it slowly turning him into everything he once fought against. But Sovereign isn't finished with him just yet. Even in death, Saren's cybernetic implants reanimate his corpse, turning him into a grotesque hybrid of organic and synthetic horror. It's a final insult. Even death can't free him from the Reaper's control. And this boss fight works not because it's mechanically brilliant, but because it represents everything you've been fighting. Complete subversion of free will, corruption of someone who should have been your ally, and the sheer arrogance of forces that won't even let death end their manipulation. While you're dealing with Saren's reanimated form, the real battle rages outside. Sovereign has arrived at the Citadel, and the sight of it dwarfing the galaxy's greatest fleet drives home the scale of what you're facing. This isn't just some large ship. This is a living embodiment of technological supremacy, casually tearing through the combined fleet of Council space. Every shot from Sovereign's weapons eradicates vessels, representing the pinnacle of organic achievement. The space battle provides the perfect backdrop for the personal confrontation. While you fight for Saren's soul in the Council chambers, galactic civilization's fate hangs in the balance just outside. As the battle rages on, Mass Effect provides you with yet another choice. You have to decide whether to advise the Alliance to help the Council or to focus their efforts on stopping Sovereign. Save the Council, and more human ships die protecting politicians who've dismissed humanity for years. Focus on Sovereign, and you let the galactic leadership perish while potentially securing humanity's dominant position in whatever comes next. Both choices can make sense. Do you take the moral high ground, proving humanity deserves galactic leadership through sacrifice, or do you make the cold calculation that human survival matters more than alien politicians? Again, this is a brilliantly gray choice. The Council have been nothing but a thorn in your side the entire game, never believing you, never providing true support until the devil was truly at their gates. But still, can the galaxy stay united and prepare for the impending threat without seasoned leadership? But it's important to note that while this decision sets tone and affects dialogue, the downstream mechanical changes in later games aren't really massive. The real impact lies in defining your Shepard's approach to leadership. When Sovereign finally falls, torn apart by whatever fleet remains, it's not triumphant, it's sobering. This was just one Reaper. One. And it nearly destroyed everything you hold dear. It took the entirety of the Citadel fleet to take Sovereign down, but you've only delayed the cycle, not ended it. The full force of the Reapers continues barreling towards an unprepared galaxy. After the smoke clears, after Sovereign lies in pieces, and the immediate threats have passed, Mass Effect hands you one final decision. Who should represent humanity on the Council? Ambassador Udina or Captain Anderson? On the surface, this seems like an easy choice. You've bonded with Anderson throughout the game, learned to respect his wisdom and integrity. Udina's been nothing but frustrating, a politician more concerned with appearances than actions. But here's where Mass Effect shows its political sophistication. The choice isn't between good and bad. It's between different kinds of leadership, each with costs and benefits. Udina represents everything you'd expect from a career diplomat. Cold, calculating, and pragmatic. He views every conversation as negotiation, and every relationship as leverage. Udina doesn't care if people like him, he cares about the results. He's abrasive and self-serving, but he understands the game in ways pure-hearted soldiers never can. Do you want someone who represents humanity's ideals, or someone who can advance humanity's interests? Because sometimes those aren't the same thing. Anderson represents everything noble about humanity. Honor, integrity, willingness to sacrifice. He's the leader who inspires people to be better than they are. When Anderson speaks, you believe him. When he makes promises, you know he'll keep them. But being a good person doesn't automatically make you good in politics. Anderson thinks in terms of right and wrong, honor and duty, while the Council thinks in terms of power dynamics, trade agreements, and species interests. These are different languages. Do you choose the man you respect, knowing he might struggle with backroom deals and political maneuvering, or do you choose the politician you dislike, knowing that he might actually get things done? The recognition that good intentions aren't always enough, that sometimes the person who can navigate the system is more valuable than the person who wants to change it. Regardless, I always pick Anderson. As the credits roll and you see humanity taking their place among galactic leaders, there's bittersweet quality to the victory. You've saved the galaxy for now, but somewhere in dark space, an entire fleet of Reapers stirs to life. You've bought time, not safety. And the decisions you're making now will matter when the real war begins. Mass Effect 1 endures because it understood something fundamental about science fiction. The best stories use impossible scenarios to examine human truths. At its core, this isn't about fighting robot space gods, it's about the price of progress, the weight of leadership, the challenge of unity and diversity, and the indoctrination of free will. It's about whether civilization can overcome petty differences when facing existential threats. The game asks hard questions. Is genocide acceptable to prevent future disaster? Can you maintain principles when the stakes are this high? What do you owe allies who doubt you? To enemies who might be victims? These aren't abstract philosophical debates. They're personal choices that force you to define who Shepard is, and by extension, who you are. The reason people still talk about the genophage, still debate the Rachni Queen, and still get emotional about Virmire is because these choices mattered. Not just in game mechanics, but in terms of the kind of person you decide to be when everything was on the line. Mass Effect 1 succeeds at world building because it trusts its audience. It doesn't over-explain every detail or spell out every single connection. It gives glimpses of a larger universe and lets you go and fill those gaps, making you an active participant in constructing the civilization. The combat may be clunky, the Mako may handle like a drunk elephant on roller skates, but none of that matters when you're standing in the Council's chambers, realizing the weight of the decisions you've made throughout this game, not just for Shepard, but for the entire galaxy. And that's why this game remains essential. The beginning of Shepard's story, its foundation for one of gaming's most ambitious narrative experiments. A true masterclass in world building that created a universe rich enough to support the entire trilogy filled with meaningful choices. And if you've never experienced it, trust me, you owe it to yourself to make this journey, because this is just the beginning. If you're still here, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments which decisions you struggled with the most. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our Mass Effect 2 and 3 videos coming out soon, because Shepard's story is far from over.